Alrighty, YouTube, good afternoon to y'all here. A happy Tuesday, November 4th, 2025. Hope you guys are doing well out there. And we have got some brutal cold air to talk about here today. Also, we've got the threat for some snowfall this weekend across portions of the Ohio Valley and the Northeast. Who could see those snowflakes flying? We've also got the return for severe weather, potentially a little bit this weekend, but more in terms of the long-range forecasting. Some of the models are starting to agree on some upper-level troughs coming in. And we've also got some flooding and a low-end tornado risk tomorrow for the West Coast from California up towards northwestern Oregon, where we are going to have the atmospheric river setup going on. That Pineapple Express is what a lot of Mets refer to it as. Very, very active storm systems coming in off the west, and that typically transitions to some severe weather and storms across the central and eastern half of the United States as we go into the future period. So we're going to break all that down here as we go through the next couple of days here, talk about that here. We'll have some live streams as well over the next couple of days. I've not had any videos here on the YouTube channel since I think last week when we had Hurricane Melissa coverage. Kind of took this weekend off to get myself back together after all the coverage we had. But as always, if you guys are new to the channel, if you will hit the subscribe button on the bottom of your screen, turn the bell notification icon on as always, so you can get the notifications on your phones once we go live, and as well as when we post new videos. I appreciate it very, very, very much. We got satellite imagery here this morning. Not a lot going on here this afternoon. It's this morning into this afternoon here. I keep remembering here that my videos are a little bit later today. But other than that here, pretty clear day for much of the United States here. We got an upper level ridge keeping high pressure dominant for much of the country here. Two actual upper level highs, one in the Ohio Valley, one over here back into the Rockies here. And this is going to stay the theme here as we go through the next couple of days until we get toward about Thursday into Friday, where we're going to have a trough that's going to come through and eventually barrel through this high pressure, and we'll see things change across the United States as we go into this weekend and into early next week. I do want to start out with severe weather today. We don't have any severe weather with forecasted for today from the Storm Prediction Center, not even really looking at any general thunderstorms, but tomorrow we do have some severe weather. We have two areas we're watching tomorrow. One up here in the northeast corridor from northern Pennsylvania back up into New York, up towards portions of Maine here, getting up towards Massachusetts. General thunderstorm risk up there. We are going to be watching for a wind and a small little hail threat up there. Not really looking at a tornado risk up there, but interestingly enough, we have a tornado risk tomorrow, and it's not where you typically would see it at this time of the year, and it's back over here into Oregon and northwestern California due to that Pineapple Express or atmospheric river getting ready to set up here. We're going to have some shear, some instability, and any low top supercells could produce an isolated tornado risk tomorrow from Medford all the way up into Portland, Oregon. We're going to have to watch out there on the west coast tomorrow for some isolated tornadoes. So if I've got any viewers there, there is that 2% tornado risk. We've got Portland, we've got Medford here as well. Here we've got Salem, we've got Eugene, Gresham as well. We've got Portland in there. So we will be watching out for this threat tomorrow. If we need to go live, we absolutely sure will tomorrow to cover this. But other than that, just be staying mindful there. Have alerts on your phones. Know where to go when you get warnings. I know it's a little bit different over there, but same thing applies to the West Coast as it would be for the Central Plains, the Ohio Valley, or the Northeast. Wind threat at 5% for both areas tomorrow, and that hail threat is also going to be at 5% for the West Coast. Now, things will get really interesting as we go toward the week. Not expecting anything, at least as of right now, in the day 3 forecast, but as we go towards day 4 and day 5, we could see a little severe weather down here towards the Tennessee River Valley on Friday. We're going to have a little bit of weak instability, some decent shear. I call this a low Cape high shear day, and we could have ourselves a couple of isolated tornadoes out there on Friday evening as we see this cold front suppress off of the Midwest here, and then eventually we'll be seeing some snowflakes fly, as well as some very, very brutal cold air this weekend as well, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. I don't typically show this a lot unless it's during severe weather season, but we do have the CSU modeling here kind of give us an idea of what our risk zone could potentially look like on Friday, and CSU does have a slight risk and a marginal risk in place, and this is, I agree with where this more than likely could be at for severe weather on Friday here. So we're going to be watching this on Friday very closely here. The Storm Prediction Center doesn't have anything outlined yet, but I do think as we go towards the future here, we could see an SPC slight risk outlined or a marginal risk outlined here. We'll be watching it very, very closely, and we'll keep you guys updated here on the channel if anything does change, and we'll have updates in general in terms of live streams as we go through the next couple days as well. Let's talk about tomorrow's severe weather threat here. I'm only able to show northwestern Cali and western southwest Oregon here, but the same thing applies to the northern portions of the risk zone for tomorrow. But we will have showers and thunderstorms that are going to start to fire off later on tonight, late tonight into early tomorrow morning, and we'll initially see a band of thunderstorms and rain move through early tomorrow morning, but as instability increases right behind our low here, we could see a couple of these low top supercells develop here, and you can see them on the coastline here. It'll take a couple of these some time to inland here, but if they do make it inland, we could see a couple tornadoes from Portland all the way down here to northwestern California, and it's very, very possible that these setups do produce, some interesting little, tornado spins up. So we're going to have to watch this very closely for you guys here on the channel. We'll keep you guys updated with this as well, but timing would be early tomorrow morning around 5 to 6 a.m. and then going through much of the day. We could have a couple rounds of these storms before eventually this low moves inland, but there also is going to be the threat for some gusty winds there. Anytime we have these pineapple expresses or these atmospheric river setups with these big cyclones up in the Northwest Pacific here, we can allow for damaging winds, and in terms of just the front coming through with as well as heavy rainfall and some snowfall for some higher elevations as well. So we're going to be really starting to talk about these specific setups here over the next couple of weeks, because this is what's going to transition us into our winter weather pattern as we go into the end of November, into December, January, and February. So I do expect these setups to be talked about a lot, and we will definitely be covering that here on the channel. I will mention as well, instability is very, very weak tomorrow, but we will have just enough to allow for some isolated tornado spin-ups tomorrow afternoon. Very, very much possible. And you can also see as well here with our tornado parameters, very, very weak here, but as we go towards tomorrow afternoon, gonna have to watch the coastline here, and we may end up being in live coverage mode tomorrow to cover this if this does in fact, increase a little bit, or, actually verify. So we'll keep you guys updated here as well. Also, one more thing I will show, fall, just the rainfall totals here on the northwestern Cali, southwestern Portland, in western Oregon here. We can see some pretty heavy rainfall totals here, anywhere from 3 to 5 inches in those higher elevations, and some of this will be snow up here in the higher elevations where the mountains are, but a general good soak into rainfall here coming to western Oregon, western Cali. And this is also where we do see a lot of our rainfall accumulations that help with our drought situation that we have, if there is any drought ongoing. I know there's some areas that do have drought, but this will help out a lot with that in terms of, the rainfall being beneficial for those areas. So that'll be good to see. Now let's talk about what's getting ready to happen here. I want to talk about the European model, because the European model has been really, really good so far. Been showing us our brutal cold air that's coming down this weekend. We're going to have some of the coldest air temperatures we've seen in quite some time, and that's going to allow for 15 to 25, maybe even 30-degree below average temperatures as we go through the next couple of days here into the weekend and into early next week before we warm back up again right after that. So if you get sick with battling of warm and cold air going back and forth, this is definitely something your body's going to have to battle through. Right now, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, we have a upper level ridge here kind of suppressing our jet stream to the north. You can kind of see the canopy, the way the jet stream is layered here. So not expecting any like brutally wild severe weather or anything like that. Not really looking at any rainfall. But as we head into Thursday, this trough is officially going to push its way off the coast here, and we are going to enter what's called kind of a zonal jet stream here. And this is going to allow for our jet stream to, get a little bit wonky. And then we're going to be watching for a second piece of energy that's going to develop out of northern Canada as we head towards Friday and Saturday. And this is going to push our jet stream down to the southeast. Now, as I mentioned, severe weather going to be possible for the Tennessee Valley, the lower Ohio Valley on Friday afternoon, just due to a little bit of the divergence here that we're going to have with our trough. And this could allow for a little bit of instability and some moisture. I don't think, Friday's setup's going to be anything crazy for severe weather, but we could have a low and severe weather potential all hazards on the table on Friday afternoon in this area here. But then I want you to notice, here comes our northwesterly flow kicking in behind our cold front once it comes in through Friday and Saturday here, and we're going to have some pretty cold air. And also, anytime you see a jet stream like this is typically associated with very, very cold air out of Canada. We're also going to have some very, very gusty winds. Those tighter isobars, I mentioned this in yesterday on my TikTok video, the tighter those isobars are, the more compact your wind is, you're going to have bigger wind gusts. So Kentucky, Tennessee, we're going to have the wind gusts. We're going to have a very, very gross weekend in terms of cold air and snowflakes potentially flying for some areas. We may even see some snow accumulation as we go into Sunday and Monday as this official low deepens. If you get pressure headaches, this is also going to be something that's going to be an issue as well. Ridging develops in the west over here as we see this cold front dip down. If this was a system that was coming through in December or January, we'd have a ridiculous amount of snowfall for a lot of people. That's not going to be the case with this system, but you can see how compact that jet stream is going to be going into early next Monday, Tuesday, and then eventually we'll see that lift to the north. We'll have one more little push of air, cold air come in early to late next week, and then after that we really start to enter a very interesting pattern. I think once we hit that second, third week end of November, we start to see our severe weather potential go up. We see our troughs, our major storm systems come off the west coast, and these are really going to allow for severe weather and winter weather to potentially be a main factor. You typically see big time severe weather outbreaks associated with these type of troughs, and this is something we're going to see. And it does make me note as well, ridging down here into the Gulf could help keep the severe weather potential a little bit higher down here toward the southeast and the Ohio Valley. These are my areas that I really like to watch for severe weather between November, December, and January. We typically can get some big time severe weather outbreaks. So something to note in the future. We're not going to talk too much about this right now because it's over 10 days out, but I want you guys to understand the pattern is going to be changing a lot as we head through the next couple of days. Here's our temperature anomalies. I've been talking about this a lot on TikTok as well. YouTube, this is the first time y'all are hearing this because I haven't gotten any videos out quite yet in the last couple of days. But here is our big cold blast of air coming in. It's going to be nice and warm through much of the week here through about Friday. Here comes that dip in the jet stream, bringing some very, very, very cold air. I mean, we may be seeing some of the coldest air since February and March of this year, beginning of this year for a lot of people. You start to see those whites and those pinks pop up there. Those are 20, 25, maybe even 30 degree below average temperatures temperatures, especially for the Tennessee and northern portions of the Ohio Valley River area here. We're going to have to watch very, very closely, even down toward the deep south. We could see some frost. We could see some freeze warnings. We could even see some potential, cold air advisories as well for people that do that. So there's some National Weather Service offices that issue that. But I do think wind chills are going to be an issue. I do think we're going to have our first official taste of winter this weekend for much of the eastern and central half of the country here. And then eventually we'll warm back up again heading into next week. And then, things will transition again into more of a severe weather-like pattern as we see, back and forth clashes of air masses. Here's another way we're going to look at this as well. Here's our precip type. Like I mentioned, not a lot going on this week. We're going to see this little system, maybe some snow showers, some cooler air aloft up towards northern PA and New York as we head towards Thursday and Friday. And then eventually as we head toward this weekend, cold front extending down. This is where I want to watch for the threat for severe weather. Once again, back here in the lower Ohio Valley and the Tennessee Valley on Friday afternoon. Very low wind setup here. But then here comes our cold air out of Canada dipping down here. You can see snowflakes flying, transition into rain, maybe some wintry precip. This looks like a gross little mess weekend across the Ohio Valley and the Northeast and Great Lakes up here. So if you've got plans this weekend, you definitely don't want to be out in this if you don't like wintry precip, because there's definitely going to be some snowflakes flying. We may even see the potential for some accumulational Great Lake effect snowfall up here off of Lake Michigan. And you can see those isobars, once again, I mentioned this a lot, getting a lot tighter as this low dips down and that cold air gets pushed down. I think this weekend, guys, we may be even setting some records in terms of how cold, early it's going to get cold in terms of November here. So we're going to have to watch, but it does look like snowfall accumulation for Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio, Tennessee, the Carolinas. When you see cold air like this, it typically means there's going to be snow accumulation. So we're going to start to hammer more of that forecasting as we get closer to the end of the work week here. But I do see that being a possible scenario here this weekend. And then eventually as we go into next week, high pressure dominates the East Coast. And then we see more storm systems potentially entering the picture heading into next weekend past the 15th and beyond, a little ways out here. But it does look to get very, very active for severe weather as winter weather as well. So we'll keep you guys updated with that as always. And, just one more thing I will show here, just to give an idea here on potential snowfall. I don't like to show this too much, but just the total snow 10-to-1 ratio. If all of this were to fall snowfall, just to get some people a little bit excited as we head toward the work week here, end of the work week into early next week. Here's some potential with snowfall. You got 1 to 3 inches in those lighter blues to darker blues, with the Great Lakes up here around Lake Michigan, maybe seeing some higher lake effect snow. So we'll keep you guys updated here, but this area needs to be watching out for very, very cold air. We've actually got a moderate risk for significant hazardous temperatures on the global hazard outlook here from the National Weather Service, and I'll talk more about that in the stream as well today. But like I said, just a very, very interesting weekend on the way here for much of the eastern half and central portions of the United States. So if you don't like cold, you're going to want to bundle up this weekend. If you don't like snow this early in the season, or like snow at all, this may be something you may have to deal with as well, and we'll keep you guys posted on that on the latest. But other than that, y'all, stay safe out there. Have a wonderful Tuesday, and we'll see y'all in the next one.